Wow. Okay, so unclear if anybody is still there waiting. And everybody's seen me do this like every day. I pop out of the apartment, turn this equipment on, and everything's a go. Didn't happen today. 25 minutes of screaming and cursing on the street before I could get all the problems resolved to just do a normal live stream. I hope I'm live. Who knows what may have gone down stopping that whole deal. But, you know, Thanksgiving is canceled by order of the governor or the mayor or whatever, whoever's in charge of that. And the Thanksgiving Macys parade is canceled. I wanted to get out here. I think it ends at 11 a.m. So the idea was to get out here. There's some kind of a something. I guess you can't even get near it. Not a parade exactly, but I thought we might see some balloons. You know, Thanksgiving without balloons is a little... Is it, you can't get anywhere near the Macys?
That's locked down.
Are there balloons? Is there any kind of... Two balloons and it's over already. Thanks.
Sorry.
Two balloons and it's over already. That's weak as hell. Okay, we got some people watching. Thank you for sticking with me, everybody. Two balloons. Enjoy your two balloons and get the hell out of here. Thanksgiving is canceled. Okay, I mean, you know, that's what we wanted to see. There's Macys over there. I mean, you just can't get near it. Two balloons. Wow. That's bad. That's bad. Now, people remember yesterday over there somewhere, you know, Charles and I kind of got, actually, you know, back over there by Macys. We got zapped by some kind of, oh, right. People might not know that. So yesterday's show got cut out. And the broadcast actually stopped before I realized what was going on. So Charles and I were walking over there. I was using an alternate stabilizer that I recently got that does have Bluetooth in it. I mistakenly said that it didn't have Bluetooth in it. And it started, people can see in the video, actually you can't see it in the video. You gotta go to the sponsor exclusive director's cut of that video, which is on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It has very, very small amount of additional footage, but in this case, it is extremely telling. You see the stabilizer start to freak out and the camera go all over the place and the sound freaks out. And I say something like, hey, Charles, something's going on. And the broadcast was cut off. So some sort of radio interference or something happened over there. And now we can't even get near it. I understood from what I had read that they were going to have Macys balloons hanging out by Macys, but I guess they only had two. We didn't see them getting inflated yesterday. I didn't see them today. I didn't feel like hanging out there, you know, 9 a.m. to noon, but I figured if we go there, I'm trying to keep this person out of the... See, there's new rules on YouTube that can get you dinged. And for people who are wondering why there's no broadcast on Crowdsource the Truth 2 right now, it's been dinged. It got a strike. Oh yeah, that's why I called this Do Not Be Obnoxious in Your Tone edition, because schools will be closed and all the other crap that Cuomo says. You know, science tells him that it's a good idea to seal yourself into a wet, heated, enclosed plastic room with no circulating air. Absolutely the best thing for you during a pandemic and flu season as the winter approaches and it's 60 degrees one day, 30 degrees the next. Best thing for you. Multiple HVAC engineers have now told me that it is not wise to sit inside an enclosed room, saying that even if one face of it is open like this, you don't have the kind of air circulation that you get in a building with an HVAC system that's designed to recirculate the air and replace the air into place something like every 30 minutes for the entire volume of air. Look at this. This is real bad. I don't know where these health guidelines are coming from that tell these restaurants to seal people inside tents. But I will not be having my Thanksgiving there. I was going to try to take the day off, but I wanted to get out. I wanted to let people know some things that are going on. A lot of interesting developments in the world of lawfare, and I'm not just talking about the multiple lawsuits that have been brought against me, my corporation. The social engineers who are involved in these lawsuits will have you believe that that's happening because of something that I'm doing, you know, basically. Guy riding a bike on the sidewalk, almost crashing into people. I hate that. So it's raining now, but yes, the lawfare. A lot of lawfare happening against me, and it's because they don't want me showing people the incredible state of New York City. How buildings are for rent, stores are closing and for lease. How somehow science tells Governor Cuomo or Mayor de Blasio that sealing people inside tents is safer than allowing them to conduct their business inside, when we've got a virus that has a less than 1% fatality rate. This is how they choose to handle it. Really bad, and you know, we've spoken quite extensively about how I believe the Emmys gave Cuomo this award to try to, you know, draw people's attention, put him in the news, make it seem like he's doing something great. That is an award that's never been given to a politician before. Even if it is legal as a 501c6, they can do political things, but hopefully people will read the details of what that's supposed to be. I mean, it's got to be directly connected to their core business. I think they'll say because they gave him the award for his television shows that that's directly connected, but I'm not sure that's the way that IRS code is intended to work. I think it's got to do with if the governor is somehow involved in legislation that's going to help what it is that they're tax exempt to do. I don't know. Lawyers need to look at that. I don't even necessarily care about that. The lawfare that I want to talk to people about today has to do with, you know, everything that went on yesterday. You know, Charles and I were out when President Trump pardoned Michael Flynn. That's obviously a huge deal. Not sure what's going to happen now with regard to General Flynn. And, you know, I guess all the people who like the 17th letter of the alphabet are going to say that this was part of the plan. I feel like this might be, you know, we're on an improvised section of the plan right now. But that's fine. As long as it works out, that's all I really care about. And, yeah, so let's talk about some other aspects of lawfare here. Two strange things came up, and Crowdsource the Truth viewers are up in arms that it seems Congress will pay $850,000 in a settlement to Imran Awan and his family. And if people go to the New York Times, you can read this article. They're talking about how, you know, there was no evidence and it was a right-wing conspiracy theory. But people will remember that when I drove Laurel Everly to the U.S. Capitol Police to deliver substantial evidence, not the least of which would have been any kind of, you know, firsthand testimony that she would have given if there were ever a real trial of Imran Awan. Yeah, the laptop that she alleged had been hacked by him, a cell phone that she alleged had been hacked by him, and she had good evidence that it had been hacked. It was missing. He had frequent access to the house. He was the owner of the house. When she got it back, all of her friends were getting like spam emails from her and stuff. So absolutely it could have been hacked. We've seen a lot of electronic disruption on my devices. I don't have any forensic evidence that that's deliberate or coming from a hacker rather than just the standard complicated stuff of trying to do all the admittedly demanding things I try to do with an iPhone. Walking around New York City with a ton of EMF pollution and stuff. It could just be a string of random coincidences. That's possible. Look at how nice it looks over here. Oh yeah. Emmy award-winning New York City junkyard out on the streets. The other really curious connection is there was another article in the New York Times that it seems there's been a settlement also with Fox News and Seth Rich's family. That's another right-wing conspiracy. I've had a lot of questions about anything and everything having to do with Seth Rich. I don't believe a lot of the reporting I've heard on that story, no matter who it's coming from. But these are two interesting and seemingly connected, not in terms of Imran Awan. He never had dinner with Seth Rich or anything like that, but they seem connected just in terms of the time that they were going on. It's interesting, you know, a lot of people saw the interview yesterday with Nurse Erin. A lot of people saw the interview with Nurse Erin. Mixed feelings from the crowd about Nurse Erin. Some people saying she's a hero and they love her. Some people saying they don't believe her, that she's a social engineer. I think, you know, the thing I was trying to get at, and, you know, she was a great sport. I was very aggressive in my questioning. There were a lot of questions. Most people seemed to feel that I asked her good questions, and I wasn't, you know, I don't know her. I have no preconceived notion of her. She came onto YouTube, and I just had some questions. Why does one video about something that they don't want people talking about, potentially, why is that allowed to stay and grow to 1.5 million views, not get any strikes or YouTube notices or any of those, hey, here's what's actually going on with COVID-19 type messages that YouTube loves to give? Lincoln Kareem has been speaking to some EMS workers around town, and they've been saying they haven't noticed an uptick in coronavirus calls or patients or whatever. But yeah, I was asking Nurse Erin, asking Nurse Erin, you know, and obviously she doesn't know what's going on with the video. She just got involved with what she saw there. A lot of people feel like she's a social engineer. We don't know. And it could be, as we kind of got to in the interview, it could be unwitting. You know, she might not know what's going on. She could be a part of something, or someone could have hired her, that crucial casting company could have hired her to get involved in something and then not tell her the full story. Frankly, I think that's the way a lot of these things work. There's always somebody in there who's a patsy. Remember the Port of Charleston, South Carolina incident? You know, we had George and we had all these people who seem to know a lot about that. Okie Marshall Richards, you know, George's brother now has all these wonderful interrogatories in his lawsuit that he wants me to answer. He seems to think that I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of answering any of those questions. People can go back and listen to that original video. Okie Marshall Richards tells George there's stuff on the boat. George tells me. That was the extent of the report. I didn't know where Okie Marshall Richards got that information from, and to this day, we don't know if what he said was correct or incorrect. The FBI and the Coast Guard have never told us what, if anything, was found there. But it's interesting that, you know, both Seth Rich and Imran Awan were covered by George Webb really extensively. He spoke a lot about all of those things. I mean, so did I. So again, I mean, you could say this about me. Sample sale is closed today. But, you know, there seems to be a technique where if there's some sort of inflammatory event, some sort of story that's very sensitive, whoever wants to control the information in that story wants someone very close to it. And they want the public, particularly, I think we're dealing now with a segment of the public that is of particular interest to, you know, whether it's the State Department Global Engagement Center, FBI, you know, all these different contract things that hire people to basically be this information militia, this cyber militia. We've heard George's brother talk about that. He wants to get a permanent injunction or a temporary injunction, an immediate stop to me. He doesn't want me to be able to talk about him. He doesn't think that images of him can be used in news reporting. He thinks I need some kind of license or something to say that what we're talking about is news. frankly, taking a camera up to 34th Street and showing people that there are only 2 balloons, and even though they said there was going to be some sort of Thanksgiving parade outside of Macys from 9 a.m. till noon, at 11, no balloons. Go home. Nothing to see. That's news, and I've just reported it. That counts as journalism. Just like taking a picture of something counts as photography. If you take a picture of something newsworthy and it gets in the news, you're a photojournalist. If you give your opinion of the current political climate in New York City, like it looks extremely bad, now you've become a political analyst. You've become a commentator. The First Amendment allows you to do things like this, so we'll see what happens. But all this lawfare that's going on, it's super interesting. And you know, one of the things I was trying to get to in my conversation with Nurse Erin was I really want people to be thinking about these types of complicated psychological, people call them psyops, that immediately causes some people's eyes to roll, but the Army has a psychological operations department. Remember, Scott Bennett was in it. You know, he's another guy who had lied to us. But, you know, again, some people say, oh, Jason, you need to vet these people better. Well, I could have spent every single day from the moment I started Crowdsource the Truth until today vetting every person who's ever been on the show, and I wouldn't be done, and I still wouldn't know if they were being honest with me or not. There's no way to know. So what I've done is I've just changed the approach to investigative journalism by making it a crowdsourced environment. I just put people who I find reasonable. I'm not going to put somebody who I feel is obviously lying, and sometimes it's hard to know. So I put people out there. Sometimes I have people on who I think are lying because I want to question them. I want people to see the questions and the answers. And then sometimes viewers raise points that maybe I hadn't thought of. Maybe they know things about the particular person that I didn't know. That guy, Ari Friedman, is a good example. He approached me as a seemingly honest guy, said he had information about Masons and things that might make an interesting show, but as it turns out, he was living with George Webb and doing regular shows with him. I didn't know that until he came on the show, and immediately people told me. So that's the point of Crowdsource the Truth, is as one person, you know, I can't do the type of productions that CNN does, that 60 Minutes does. I can't do the type of research that the New York Times could do. So we're taking a different approach, you know. I think a lot of people see it's quite unusual for me to be the technical director and the co-host of a show, the one-man operation. And I mean, the delay that I experienced this morning was kind of unprecedented. I'm very good at making computers work even when they don't want to, and it took 20 minutes to get a standard process going. I don't know what happened. I mean, that could be consistent with random electronic interference disrupting something. Who knows? But I got it back to working, and here we are. The park is totally empty. I guess everybody is, you know, cooking turkeys and doing whatever they do at this time of day on the morning of Thanksgiving when there's no balloons in the Thanksgiving Day parade. I was speaking with Charles about this after we stopped rolling yesterday, and he says, father, he's mentioned this on air, is well into his 90s and has lived in New York for decades. His father said he does not ever remember the Thanksgiving Day parade being canceled, not for World War II, not for anything. It's Thanksgiving. We need balloons. We need a parade. Honestly, even if I don't watch it, just it not happening bothers me. And yeah, you know, it's interesting. So, right, I didn't finish the thought on Nurse Marie. Nurse Erin Marie Ozlewski. So, you know, she might have been brought in a similar capacity to me in that Port of Charleston incident. I knew some things about what was happening. George, you know, what people saw on the show. George told me XYZ. We did a report. Now they spent 3 years, more than 3 years, trying to say that I planned that or had something to do with it. It's just so stupid on its face. But the fact that they introduce it into court, it puts me in this process where I have to now explain my side, convince the jury that, well, there's no jury yet, but the judge and all that. And it starts to get into this mode where it doesn't matter what the facts of what happened are. It matters what's presented in court and what the court decides. So that's what we're seeing in these New York Times stories. See, someone who didn't follow that whole thing and doesn't know that I had evidence that Imran Awan had an internet connection at 3809 Sprayer Street, and that there was something in a shed there that he was very upset about when there was a flood, when Laurel Everly would ask questions about it. George Webb went to the house to try to distract people from that shed. That shed was the key to the whole entire case. That's where the evidence was. That's where the U.S. Capitol Police should have gone. That is what Imran Awan should have been questioned about. And, I mean, listen, someone's going to read that and say, oh, you see, it was a conspiracy theory because Congress paid him $850,000. No. Even in the New York Times article, they say that they're not saying they made a mistake by blocking Imran Awan from his access to the congressional network. They think that was the right thing to do. They still suspect that there was, I presume that indicates that they still suspect that there was hacking going on, but they paid him $850,000 because they determined that the cost of defending his wrongful termination lawsuit would be higher than $850,000. They're admitting that it's lawfare. That's really crazy. So I wonder to what extent the calculation was made by the people who are suing me that I would just settle with them or do whatever they want, irrespective of the facts of the situation, that they could force something to happen. That's lawfare. I'm saying that these lawsuits that have been brought against me have not been brought with the intent of curing some injury, the real reason why you have right to access the courts. These are weaponized lawsuits that have been brought against me to try to shut down Crowdsource the Truth. And, just this morning, one of the Cuomo videos was struck. So people are going to now have to go to banned.video to watch that, or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Because again, Governor Cuomo didn't take me to court and make a determination that what I had done was illegal or a civil tort. We've just got these constantly changing rules with YouTube, whereby they can do whatever they want and effectively shut down anybody. I mean, keep in mind that all of this that's happened with the election, the allegations of election fraud, and all the things going on in Pennsylvania with the hearing yesterday, anybody trying to get information about that sort of stuff is having a really difficult time because the mainstream news doesn't cover it. And Adam Sharp, President and CEO of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, he struck the Jason Goodman channel one day after George's brother's motion to supplement or amend or do something with his complaint. His lawsuit was on the ropes. The judge denied his request, his motion to supplement his complaint on August the 19th, and then August the 20th, this strike from Adam Sharp of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences hit, effectively taking out Crowdsource the Truth, reducing the reach tremendously of the videos, making it harder for people to see what it is that I'm talking about. That was mighty strategic, and it would have kept the channel shut down until November 19th if it wasn't for my crafty legal writing to YouTube that convinced them that what the guy had done was wrong. People can go back and learn about that, but we've still got the lawsuit happening where the Emmys are suing my company. That's lawfare. They didn't sue Jason Goodman. They tried to take down the Jason Goodman channel, but then they sued my corporation because it was a strategic effort by them to shut me down. They know the law and the facts are on my side. Same thing with Robert David Steele. I hadn't mentioned this because his lawyer never properly served me. His lawyer is supposed to pay a process server, but they're so cheap and broke they don't even want to do that. And again, if you're confident that you're going to win, spending $400 to serve somebody or whatever it costs to hire a process server shouldn't be that big a deal. But if you are just a broke dope trying to put legal pressure on somebody by filing a lawsuit in defiance of a judge's orders in another division, I mean, again, these are details that I'm going to get into in my Deep Inside Robert David Steele's anti-speech strategy lawsuit series, detailing the lawsuit and what's going on in it. That's been on hiatus for a little while because I've just been so busy with other stuff, and also because of the disruptions from Vimeo. I mean, it's amazing the ways in which these various things have attempted to disrupt the broadcasts. I mean, so many people are telling me to get out of New York. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do it. People are fearful that there's going to be some kind of, what's the next shoe that's going to drop. Certainly we hope Donald Trump will be successful in his legal fight. Right, so back to Nurse Erin. So she might be a patsy in this thing. What I was trying to get at is, see, I found it really strange that she had all this positive stuff to say about Cameron Kyle Seidel and Colleen Smith. Those people seem to be on the opposite sides of they seem to be on opposite sides of an argument. Sorry, I'm just getting some text messages there that seemed relevant. What I'm getting at is, if people recall Quinn Michaels, he used to speak a lot about artificial intelligence and this concept of adversarial networks. Now, I'm not sure I understood it properly, but it got me thinking along these lines. I think, in terms of artificial reality, what an adversarial network is, it's like they wanted to create an artificial intelligence to play this game Go, which is like a Chinese strategy game. I don't know too much about it, but it's a very complicated game. And a couple years ago, they created a computer that for the first time ever beat a human, the human champion. And it was like decades earlier than artificial intelligence experts predicted this feat would be achieved. And one of the ways that they got the artificial intelligence to be so good at Go is that when they taught it how to play Go, they had it play against itself. And so if you had like artificial intelligence version 1 versus itself, and it won, the winner goes on to challenge some new version of the artificial intelligence that tries to figure out a way to beat it. And whoever wins that becomes the artificial intelligence champion to play against another artificial intelligence, and it keeps playing against itself as its own adversary to, improve its skills at that particular game. But I started thinking, even if that's not what an adversarial network is, I started thinking about what would be the advantages of someone to control apparent adversaries or to create apparent adversaries. If you've got this doctor, there's a doctor called Z-Dog MD who I found in looking up stuff about Nurse Marie. I keep calling her Nurse Marie, Nurse Erin, sorry. Found this guy, he's just totally rude, totally mean to her. Some of the things that he said I thought were valid. Some of them were just annoying YouTube drivel. But to the casual observer, he's on one side of the argument saying that Erin is a faker and an opportunist and unprofessional, etc. And she's on the other side of the argument saying these doctors are killing people. So what if both of them came from the same plan? What if George Webb were working to benefit Imran Awan? We all think he's trying to investigate Imran Awan, but he actually did not do that. Or to the extent that he did that, the investigation didn't lead to anything bad happening to Imran Awan. He had a couple of nervous months going to court, and now he can never be tried for any possible crimes that he might have committed, and he got 850 grand. That's pretty good. He could still be an IT guy or do whatever it is that he does. But so, when I started chasing Imran Awan down the street to ask him tough questions, George wasn't there. When I showed a video that indicated that Imran Awan had very probably a server hidden in an air-conditioned shed connected to the garage at 3809 Sprayer Street. George went to 3809 Sprayer Street and showed everybody else a different shed that wasn't connected to the garage. And he was supporting the idea that there was no evidence, contradicting my presentation of evidence. Why would he do that? And with Seth Rich, you know, I mean, listen, my investigation didn't lead to anything with Seth Rich, but at least I tried, you know. I set up that interview with Rod Wheeler. He was involved in that Fox lawsuit. I should call him again now that it's been settled and see if we can talk to him some more, try to learn some more about that. I don't believe anything about the stories having to do with Seth Rich. I don't believe that Julian Assange, I mean, Julian Assange did not say Seth Rich was the source to WikiLeaks. He made some suggestive comments that people have interpreted to mean a variety of different things. People do that a lot. You know, everybody was trying to figure out what's the Kraken. Now that Sidney Powell has released her lawsuits, I think she said Kraken released and she showed the lawsuits. That seems to support my idea that she was just talking about opening a can of legal whoop-ass, bringing those lawsuits as the Kraken. It was also interesting to see that I think Bloomberg was sort of disparaging Sidney Powell for having typos in her lawsuit. I don't think that's a very big deal. Obviously, I'm sure Sidney is feeling bad about it. I know she worked really hard putting that stuff together. I've been exactly where she is. You work real hard, your head down, kind of in the information. There's a typo here, there's a typo there. Obviously, you don't want that, but it happens. I'm more concerned about the content of the lawsuit and if that's going to be able to go anywhere and have an impact. A lot of people felt that a corner was turned yesterday with the Pennsylvania state legislature hearing, during which Rudy Giuliani presented a lot of the evidence that, if people have been watching Rudy Giuliani's podcast, he's been talking about that evidence, showing that evidence. When President Trump called in, I thought that was a powerful moment, a historic moment. Anyone who thinks that there shouldn't be an investigation of what went on with the 2020 election is not being honest with themselves. Even if you want Joe Biden to win, you should want it to be under honest circumstances. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that there was, in fact, a lot of cheating, systemic cheating. The notion that an electronic voting system could be hacked is not surprising at all. But, I mean, again, we see these stories and we never know. It's not binary. I want people to be thinking like that. You can't think, oh, this guy's a good guy, that guy's a bad guy. There's all this complicated stuff going on. And it's also interesting to note of the people who are suing me when they become interested in some of these other things. Like, there's been a lot of effort to, connect me to people who, let's take Scott Bennett, for instance, okay? Scott Bennett shows up, he's on the internet. We all watch, at the time, we were watching his videos. He made a claim, he wrote a book. What was his book called? I don't even remember, but he was in jail with Brad Birkenfeld, said he wrote this whole book with Brad Birkenfeld, that Birkenfeld gave him all this information, etc. And I mean, as it turns out, when I finally spoke to Brad Birkenfeld, he said Scott's a liar. When I asked Scott about that, the answers were not good. He didn't want to get into it. See, one thing I will say for Nurse Erin, she answered those questions very well. She wasn't like Cameron Kyle Seidel, who just hung up the phone. She wasn't like Colleen Smith, who just blocked me on Twitter when I asked her questions that she didn't want to answer. She wasn't like Elmhurst Hospital when I asked them, what's the policy on letting COVID-positive doctors back into the ER? So that was quite interesting. Her willingness to answer questions was definitely unusual and should be noted. I mean, people need to be considered innocent until proven guilty. So I know a lot of people like to look at a particular video and make up their mind about somebody. A lot of people like to make a lot of allegations and accusations about me that I know are not true. But I mean, again, anybody out there who's just watching, who's not inside my brain, needs to evaluate the evidence and come to their own conclusion. But I hope that people will always be questioning anybody who comes forward and ask them for their evidence. One of the key moves that a deceitful person will use is to try to say something that they know will appeal to you. You know, with Robert David Steele, one of the things that was frequently done is they'd send somebody my way who would say something like, "Oh, I have information about Robert David Steele." And I think the attitude is, if, you know, enemy of my enemy is my friend. So somebody who wants to bring forward some information about somebody that you're trying to investigate or whatever, they can easily pose as an ally and deceive you. Queen Tut did that. A lot of people did that. So, I mean, I'm still trying to unravel all this lawfare. It goes on in the big leagues with Michael Flynn. Interesting that Trump pardoned him now. Why would he do it now? Why not wait until January 19th? Perhaps to free up Sidney Powell to not have to worry about defending Michael Flynn for the next 2 months. It's interesting times, for sure. I hope that people will help me fight my own personal counter lawfare battle by going to crowdsourcethetruth.com and supporting the Counter Lawfare Fund. I'm going to head back to the apartment right now and make sure anybody who has purchased a 1-year subscription or otherwise supported the Counter Lawfare Fund, I want to make sure those subscriptions are fulfilled. It's a very manual process right now. I am working with Subscribestar tech support to make it automated so that as soon as you click, it automatically does everything it needs to do to give you your 1-year subscription. But for right now, what happens is I get an email from like PayPal or whatever, and then I have to manually do a bunch of things. So I apologize to anyone if you've been waiting or if you signed up and didn't get it. I think there is one person who that happened to, and I apologize to that person. But just send me an email on truth@crowdsourcethetruth.com. I can accept cryptocurrency if people want to do that. I need to email me and I'll truth at crowdsourcethetruth.com or truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org. And I want to thank everybody who's been sending well wishes and happy Thanksgiving wishes and all that. It's a dreary, dreary Thanksgiving here in New York City. Very gray. It's warm. It's over 60 degrees, but there's nobody on the streets. Hopefully everybody is at home giving thanks. And we still do have things to be thankful for, as much as we might be concerned about the rather dismal economic condition and what some people are concerned about with regard to reports of growing coronavirus cases. We still live in what, for the moment, is the greatest country in the world, and I'm personally healthy. I'm thankful for that. My immediate family is healthy. My aunt seems to be doing all right, which is interesting and good. I mean, you know, she's getting up there in the years and she's definitely in a high-risk group, so for her to be recovering is good news, excellent news. I'm thankful for that. And I don't even know if that was, you know, I was told second or third hand information that it was a coronavirus diagnosis. So this is, I mean, if you just woke up out of a coma like Larry Nichols when he woke up, but if you just plop down in the middle, I mean, I don't know what you would possibly think, but, oh, is that the Kraken on the Baccaria? I feel badly for these restaurant owners. I don't think they're going to have a very good Christmas. Let's see how the comments are doing here. Wow, thank you to the 1.2 thousand people who are watching. You know, I really think that there is a concerted effort underfoot to do whatever they can to stop Crowdsource the Truth from proceeding. Yeah, so, okay, here's another interesting thing. So yesterday when the broadcast with Charles got cut by, I don't know if it was deliberate or just some radio device that was in operation over there that interfered with my equipment, but there was a strong response from the stabilizer. It got very unstable. It freaked out, and then the broadcast cut, and people can see that if they watch the director's cut on Patreon and Subscribestar. It's less than a minute of additional footage, but it is quite interesting. And you know, I mentioned to Charles, this was interesting. So on Crowdsource the Truth 2, when I restarted the broadcast, it concatenated the two. So the 11-minute thing, then it got cut off, then there was an hour and 30 minutes. On Crowdsource the Truth 2, if you go there now, there's one video. And that's actually quite good. One of the things that really annoys me about these disruptions to the broadcast is that it creates two videos and it breaks up the momentum of that video, you know, any hope that it could go viral or get more views or anything like that. And it just creates a sloppy timeline there in the YouTube channel where people don't know which is the proper video. And I mentioned to Charles on the phone after the show that I had discovered that Crowdsource the Truth 2 had something in its settings that was causing that to happen, and that it was eliminating one of the problems, and I was going to try to set up the Jason Goodman channel to do that. But now, this morning when I woke up, coincidentally, there was a strike on Crowdsource the Truth 2. So not only will I not be able to live stream, and I don't even think upload on there for 90 days, disappointing, I can't even get in there and look at what the settings are to determine how to set the Jason Goodman channel to do that. So I'll still try to figure it out, and I'm always constantly trying to figure out how to stop these disruptions from happening in the first place. Like I was having a conversation with somebody. But that was interesting. That was really interesting. And it took out one of the Andrew Cuomo videos that people can still see on banned.video. Thanks again to InfoWars and Alex Jones and his crew for allowing me to have a channel on there. That's another way that people can see Crowdsource the Truth videos. It's very helpful while YouTube and social engineers are busily trying to prevent me from broadcasting. I like it that there are opportunities for me to continue doing that. So, winding down here, did not get to see balloons on Thanksgiving. Just want people to kind of check out the neighborhood. I mean, obviously I've been making the rounds in this neighborhood pretty frequently, but you know, it's interesting to see from day to day exactly what's going on. I hope people are at home relaxing, getting to family, whatever it is you're going to be doing for Thanksgiving today. Yeah, Christmas tree. There are some around. People are saying a Christmas tree, wow. Judy says LA is like NYC. What do you mean in terms of everything being closed? I could believe that. Yeah, I mean, we've got hypocrites like Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo shutting the cities down, ruining everybody's Thanksgiving, while they want to go to French Laundry and hang out with their 89-year-old moms. Go home and watch it on TV, Judy says. Well, right. I mean, I know NBC, they've got it set up, or whoever is broadcasting it, they've got it set up so that people could see it. But what I wanted to do was to, as usual, see what they're not showing you on the news. And I mean, again, just think about that. So if you're watching on TV, you're going to think, oh, well, you know, this was a nice way to handle Thanksgiving given the pandemic. But how does that make sense? I mean, even if they had limited the number of people who could occupy the streets, like maybe the cops could have fenced off an area and allowed a certain number of people in there, or sold tickets and had wristbands where you could go to Macys or order them from Macys, or have a quarter of the people standing there and still allow it to go on. Even that would have been better than not having it at all. But again, what they're doing is TV would have you believe that this is Emmy award-winning stuff, and that everything in New York is totally fine. Andrew Cuomo is doing a great job. He's such a great governor, he deserves an award. That's what TV tells you. But what I'm telling everybody, just from looking behind the scenes, is that it is a miserable condition here on the streets of New York City, and it's a miserable condition with the non-Thanksgiving Day parade, or the Thanksgiving Day non-parade. There is no parade. The cops said, go home, 2 balloons and they're gone. Get the hell out of here, kid. No balloons for you. That was Thanksgiving 2020. Really bad. Really bad. I don't know what to tell people about that, but yeah, I mean, it used to have to be like a 12-inch blizzard to have New York City streets this empty, but now it's basically become the norm. the new normal, right? So I hope that people will be thinking about the concept of, who might be adversaries in some of these lawfare social engineering plays. Super coincidental that we had that Seth Rich settlement and the congressional settlement with the Awan family. I wonder what Imran will be up to now. I don't know if people are aware, but he's been suing Luke Rosiak. And I mean, this is not going to help Luke's case that Congress came to this conclusion. It's also noteworthy that, there was this guy, what was his name, who is appointed to, the DOJ appointed this guy to investigate election problems, but it's the same guy who stuck Steve Stockman in jail. And people will remember that Charles and I spoke with his wife, Patty, despite the fact that there were, witnesses who, they're accusing Steve Stockman, he was a congressman from Texas, they're accusing him of wrongdoing with regard to campaign financing, fundraising, etc. And the witnesses said that they weren't defrauded, but they still stuck him in jail for fraud. He's in a high-risk group for COVID. He's diabetic and he requires constant medication. Despite that fact, and during the time that they were releasing dangerous criminals from jail, Steve Stockman was not allowed to be released. He contracted COVID. I do believe he's recovered. I'm going to get in touch with his wife and find out what's going on. She's got to be very concerned that this guy who wrongfully prosecuted her husband is a 36-year-old DOJ lawyer who is moving up in clout at the same time that we see Andrew Weissman putting op-eds into the New York Times suggesting that Donald Trump should be prosecuted. We don't know for what. I personally think that Andrew Weissman should be prosecuted for all of his malicious prosecution and all of the questionable things that were done during the Mueller campaign with regard to testimony from Jerome Corsi, findings from the Mueller report itself, the fact that that thing never went anywhere, wasted tons of money. Those guys have been accused of a lot of different stuff, but it doesn't seem like they're ever going to face justice. They just, put op-eds into the New York Times, and they're social engineers themselves. They're trying to convince people of things and to manipulate facts with fictional stories. I mean, just look at how this lawfare deal, the Imran Awan case, is a perfect example. His lawyers are obviously going to use these statements from members of Congress in their civil suit against Luke Rosiak, and a court that doesn't know one way or another is going to take statements from Congress. That's going to have a lot of weight. What do we think about this rose on the Benjamin Moore? We've spoken a lot about the rose symbology. Well, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Getting close to the end of this walk around the neighborhood. Yeah, I mean, all this graffiti was not here. A lot of eyeball imagery. Some people are telling me that they are looking at, biblical prophecy that says that some kind of Ebola-like plague is going to happen. I certainly hope that's wrong. Don't want that. Yeah, I mean, look, all these restaurants have built new huts. This wasn't here before. Pretty small. I don't know who's going to eat in there. How can you maintain a restaurant? But are you going to have 2 tables in there? Well, okay, I think that's about it for Thanksgiving here in New York City. No balloons. Or perhaps you can see them on television, but no balloons that I can see out here in the street. Definitely want to thank everybody who's been helping me with the counter lawfare effort. Please go to crowdsourcethetruth.com, learn more about that. Become a monthly sponsor. You can go to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You're going to get access to a ton of sponsor exclusive content. And we are making progress with the video server. Hopefully next week there'll be I mean, there's a couple things about it that are out of my hands, but hopefully next week I'll have an announcement about that. Hope. And start restoring the full sponsor exclusive library. Years worth of videos will be coming back online. Everybody who's a sponsor right now is really helping me to do that. I couldn't do it without your sponsorship, so thanks so much, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll see everybody on Friday with David Hawkins and John Cullen.